TheAnswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. House Oversight Committee update on Biden Incorporated finds 6 more members of the Biden family identified as beneficiaries of their influence peddling operation per a review of the suspicious activity reports that have been now provided to Representative Comer and the House Oversight Committee that number in something like 150. And prior to Republicans taking the House, they had seen all of 3 or 4 of those suspicious activity reports banks are required to file when there is a suspicious financial transaction. 150 round numbers related to Hunter Biden and Biden Incorporated's far-flung influence peddling operation. Here's South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace coming out of the latest hearing.
Over 100 suspicious activity reports on the Biden family, and I have to tell you, there are more Bidens involved than we knew previously. And every time you overturn, or look under a stone, there's so much more you have to investigate. The amount of money that we're talking about in these suspicious activity reports is astronomical.
George Washington law professor Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor, opined on this latest report.
The Biden family business is largely influence peddling. I mean, that's the favorite form of corruption in Washington, but the Bidens took it to a degree that I think is unprecedented. I've been a critic of influence peddling for 30 years. This is how money is made in Washington. But I've never seen anything like what we are witnessing with the Bidens. And this is a direct threat to the president. In the emails on the Hunter Biden laptop, people are told to use code names for the president, like the big guy or Celtic. Witnesses like Bubelinski have said that he was expressly told to just not mention the president's name. There are references to a percentage going to the president. Hunter Biden himself complained about having to give a cut to his father of his earnings. All of that is corruption. And what the Democrats have largely said is, well, it's not necessarily a crime. Well, okay, but it's corruption. I mean, we should be concerned about millions of dollars of influence peddling.
And even if it's not a crime, some or even all of the business dealings, it can metastasize into criminal activity, as Turley explains.
But keep in mind that even though influence peddling itself has been carefully kept legal, and there's a reason for that, this is the cottage industry of Washington, it still tends to spin off crimes. Your efforts to conceal it, lies to federal investigators, transactions that were not lawful, can cause problems under the criminal code. But even without that, we should want to know. This is a lot of money that was spent to gain influence. The question is, what did they buy, and who did they buy it from?
Well, those are good questions. Maybe our next guest can help us answer those questions. Juan Williams, Fox News analyst, columnist for The Hill, author of What the Hell Do You Have to Lose? We're doing a little weigh-in today in advance of our debate on Tuesday night, next Tuesday night already. And I will have the details at the end of our conversation here. Juan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Dan. Good to be with you. And Amy, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
So what about these latest developments and Jonathan Turley's, Professor Turley's, what did they buy and from whom did they buy it?
Oh, I think this is just more of, Biden's a bad guy, Biden's a socialist, Biden's a criminal. Look, even Turley said to you, and you repeated it, Dan, nothing that he talked about is a crime. They're just saying, well, this is influence peddling, this is nepotism in the case of Hunter Biden. And in the case of Hunter Biden, I don't know why, but I just feel like this is a pathetic case. That guy is an admitted addict, drug addict, had an addiction problem. His sex So, I mean, okay, so you want his father to absolutely abandon his son? That's his son. And I think that all of us would understand that.
Well, Jonathan Turley didn't say there's no crime here. He said there may not be a crime here, but there may also be a crime.
He said nothing that he's talked about, the influence peddling.
Well, but we don't know yet, number one. Number two.
In other words, you want to go prospectively and say, oh, yeah, because it's Biden, I believe there's a crime. Let's nail him and hang him now. Come on.
What did he?
That's not what I said. Wait a
for?
second. That's not what I said. I said, what did he buy and from whom did he buy it? Millions of dollars transacted with countries like Russia, like China, perhaps Russia, that are our enemies. And by the way, it's not just Hunter Biden. It's his brother. His brother's not a drug addict, is he? He doesn't have any tawdry sex scandals to talk about that I know of. So it's Biden family members. An influence peddling operation. You're not interested in influence peddling operation, millions of dollars from interests that are averse to America, from plutocrats in Ukraine to Chinese Communist Party regulars. That's not of any interest to you. That should be of no concern to the American people.
Are you kidding? Of course. I'm very interested in it.
Well, you just gave them a clean bill of health, so which is it?
When you have some evidence. In other words, if you were saying to me, oh, Jared Kushner got $2 billion from the Saudis for what? I would say, oh, now we got something to talk about. But I don't hear you talking about that, Dan.
What are you talking about? We know about the millions of dollars that Biden Incorporated has gotten from foreign interests. We know about the emails that have now been authenticated and conversations about the big guy getting cut in. We have Tony Bobulinski, who was one of the principals of one of the gambits, the Chinese energy gambit, that has said that he met with Biden, that they've talked about this. We have Hunter Biden complaining about having to cut the big guy. We have all of these bits and pieces of an influence peddling operation. By the way, we also know Hunter Biden did commit crimes. For example, his improper filing of a gun application, which normally is something that the left cares about. But even beyond that, all of this, we know this. You have a House Oversight Committee investigating it. They're coming up with more and more payments to more and more Bidens, and they're not even through all the suspicious activity reports, and you're completely incurious.
No, I said to you, when you have evidence, and Dan, I'm going to be listening, and I'm talking to you all the time. I want to hear when you have some hard evidence rather than speculation and, Hunter Biden had a laptop and it was left here and it had all this stuff that's very suspicious. Everybody, look, the nepotism is without question. He has benefited from the fact that his father was a U.S. senator for how many terms and is now vice president and then now president. I can say that about every president in the book.
What about the benefits going the other direction potentially? Is that concerning? What about the benefits going the other direction? Is that concerning? Meaning, Biden getting cut in on these deals. That doesn't concern you about the president of the United States?
I hear that you say that people say, oh, he's the big guy and he's this and that. You don't have any evidence of one scintilla of a cent ending up in Joe Biden's hand that was illegal.
Well, I'm asking the question. We have an email. We have testimony from a former business partner of statements from a former business partner of Hunter Biden. I mean, that's not nothing.
I don't see that it's much. I mean, I don't. You want to take that in front of a jury and get laughed out of court?
I'm not prosecuting the case right now. I'm saying this doesn't demand further inquiry. This doesn't demand questions. We shouldn't be saying to Joe Biden, what is going on here? He shouldn't have to answer questions about this. They shouldn't, the questions that Jonathan Turley and others have raised. I don't understand why there's just a complete lack of curiosity here when more and more communications and payments and statements are surfacing.
It sounds purely politically motivated, this attack. And as I said to you earlier, when it comes to the prior president, who was a Republican, the other side of the political aisle, where there is concrete evidence of $2 billion going to his son-in-law for a hedge fund when the son-in-law has no record of success in that business, and the money coming from a foreign country, the Saudis, I don't hear Dan going nuts about it. So
you're interested in, you had Congress. You could have investigated that too if you thought there was something, they thought there was something suspicious. Go ahead. I'm no Jared Kushner flack, but you're interested in Jared Kushner's business dealings, the former president's son-in-law, but you're not interested in business dealings by an entire family, the patriarch of whom is the president of the United States, as more and more is coming out with each passing day, and he's the incumbent as well. Not interested.
Well, as I said, Dan, I'm interested in corruption that would influence our country and our democracy and undermine it. And if that's the case, I'm with you. But I'm just saying, right now, all it sounds like is a politically motivated rant against Joe Biden because you don't like Joe Biden. You know, he doesn't fit with your politics.
I mean, I just go round and round. I'm not. I don't like Joe Biden, but I'm asking substantive questions about specific things. I'm not just saying I don't like Joe Biden, so I'm dreaming up this thing. But okay. But you are interested in. I mean, you call Clarence Thomas a friend of yours. With friends like you, you're already judge, jury, and executioner with Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. I consider Clarence Thomas a friend, and I'm shocked by recent reports. You already concluded that he damaged the court, and there's no evidence to support that.
I think there's a lot of evidence to support that, unfortunately. I mean, you know, this is something that I wrote about in my column in The Hill, and I do so with great regret because I am a friend, and I just don't understand what's going on here because the amount of money, you know, $500,000 vacation trips and flying on private jets and yachts and all that, and allowing himself to get closeted with a small group of people, you know, including Leonard Leo of the Federalist Society and kind of this right-wing group. I just think, you know, it's just not, it's damaging to people who believe in him and that he's an independent thinker, and it's harmful to the institution of the Supreme Court because people have to assume that it's not just rich who have influence at the court because they can buy people fancy vacations, but that every American is being properly heard because we're a nation of laws, not rich men.
So Clarence Thomas is bought and paid for by Harlan Crow. That's what you're saying?
I didn't say that, but my fear is that he has allowed himself to be limited into a limited sphere of influence, dominated by Harlan Crow. Yes.
How long have you been friends with Clarence Thomas?
Oh my gosh! So what? I just turned 69, and I would guess we've known each other since I was in my early 20s.
So you've known him for 40 years almost. Has his political philosophy, judicial philosophy changed over those years, or has he always been a conservative originalist when it comes to the Constitution and the rule of law?
He's always been an originalist. I would say that the difference is that on issues, I mean, I could go through the list, but I think some of it I don't want to, it's not anybody's business but what he said to me. But I mean, I think on a lot of very brass tacks sort of culture wars issues, he's gone farther to the right, yes.
Well, okay, and when did he meet Harlan Crow? So he, right? So we don't know when he met Harlan Crow. He's always been a conservative, and maybe he's, in your view, he's moved further to the right over the years.
By the way, you know, you said he's always been a conservative. That guy was a black nationalist. I mean,
well, I understand. Well, yeah, he had
different brand of conservative here.
Well, he had a Thomas Sowell-like conversion as a young man, but I mean, clearly, you probably read his book, My Grandfather's Son, which was out to almost 20 years ago, as I did, and so I mean, I understand his journey, but my point is to say he has been a conservative, and he has been but both just sort of politically as well as his judicial philosophy for his entire adult life. But all of a sudden he goes on vacation in the Adirondacks with Harlan Crow, and now he's cornered by a group of right-wing extremists or some other demagoguery. And there's just no basis to say that. And you should know that if you've known him for 40 years.
I think when you misled the audience when you said, and he goes on vacation, and all of a sudden he's closeted with Harlan Crow. Listen, this relationship extended over decades, and those vacations were regular, almost annual events. And then you have the situation where he has an actual financial transaction. Crow buys property from him and his mother and his brother. Crow is building on adjacent property. A museum is tribute to him. Crow sponsors a documentary about him. At some point, you start to say, it sounds like you're in hire to Harlan Crow, and that's just.
I don't know Harlan Crow.
Saying that.
I don't know Harlan Crow, but I have rich friends too. Clarence Thomas, not surprisingly, has rich friends. I'm sure you have rich friends. I mean, you're connecting dots that don't connect, just as you were unwilling to connect or even consider connecting dots that do connect with Biden. I just wonder if this is sort of a well-timed misinformation campaign from ProPublica, which is a left-wing hatchet shop, to deflect attention away from what's going on over there at Biden Incorporated.
Wow, that's a stretch. But, look,
I ask a question.
I think ProPublica, my sense of ProPublica is that you're right. They're more to the left. And so I don't know what to say to you about that. But I will say that what they have reported has not been contradicted to the.
Yeah, it absolutely has. It absolutely has been contradicted, not by Clarence Thomas because he hasn't spoken to them, but it's been contradicted.
Here's what Clarence Thomas had to do was he had to go and refile some of his financial reports in light of the ProPublica report. So I think that's, almost confirming that, some things we should have put on the record here.
Well, first of all, I mean, he's not required to disclose vacations and so forth, not at least according to the statutory law when those vacations occurred. Secondly, I mean, James Taranto has a really detailed write-up in the Wall Street Journal about this, where he goes through the transactions, including the purchase of his maternal grandparents' house and when he inherited a portion of the house and some rental properties in Savannah when his maternal grandparents died, and so on and so forth. I mean, this is being characterized as he is some sort of a corrupt profiteer owned and operated by this billionaire real estate developer from Texas, when in point of fact, the worst that is it could be alleged here, the worst, and this is also in doubt because it's not even clear if his mom was still living in the house that's in question here, but the worst that could be alleged of him is that there was a error in disclosure, which is frankly not unusual when it comes to the sort of financial disclosures and financial reporting that's required for campaigns as well as for federal officials. And by the way, he's got now 30 years of filing these disclosures, and most of it, at least as reviewed by Taranto, who's done a lot more research on this than me, has come back where Taranto is giving Thomas a clean bill of health, and I don't think he's flacking either. He provides specifics, and he's making the case charge by charge. He's also decimating ProPublica's stilted reporting, and he's not the only one. So it just seems to me a rush to judgment. Clarence Thomas has damaged the court. A rush to judgment by a friend of Clarence Thomas's.
I really think that you are in the weeds. I mean, it's not about the financial stuff. To me, it's about the idea that this person, Harlan Crow, has had now the ability to bring Clarence Thomas into this very tight circle of influence where he's surrounded by these men who are, in the Federalist Society, part of an ideological bent that I think could influence the thinking of a Supreme Court justice who's supposed to be a man of the law, not a man responding to other men.
The Federalist Society
very dangerous. And you say, wait, hold on.
Okay.
You say this is all about, well, did he file this when? And did he, look, you know what? You can have that. To me, the question is, as an American who wants to trust in the credibility of the court at a time when there's a 6-3 majority, conservative majority, you say, you know what? That's a conservative majority, but those are people who believe in the law, and they will follow the law. At this moment, when the credibility of the court as an institution beyond the partisan polarization that is too common in our country is in question, the idea that one Supreme Court justice, a senior member of the court, would allow himself to be surrounded by people of one political set of thinking is very dangerous to me.
It's his thinking. The Federalist Society, you make it sound like this shadowy right-wing organization. I was a member of the Federalist Society when I was in law school. I guess that's probably an indictment too. But but the Federalist Society has chapters at law schools around the country. They have symposia. They bring conservative jurists to speak on campus. Scalia has spoken, when he was here, spoke at Federalist Society events, and Thomas and every other conservative jurist on the federal bench at one time or another, I suspect. I mean, this is just, and Leonard Leo at the Federalist Society, he's not some rabid right winger. He's a conservative. He's a conservative who has
Leo's the whole purpose of Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society has been
is to advance conservative jurists.
The Supreme Court. It's not that they have one case before the court. Their business is the whole court. They want to dominate and shift the thinking of the court, and that's why they put list of judges, far-right judges, in front of former President Trump to get that dominant majority in place. I mean, come on.
What is the? I mean, he is a conservative, so they back conservative jurists, and they try to support conservative jurists for appointments to the federal district courts, federal appellate courts, the Supreme Court. Of course they do. What's wrong with that? The left doesn't have any organizations that incubate and advance leftist judges to be appointed to those same courts. What are you talking about? That's just how. That's just what it is.
I think you would say, oh, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all those are such liberal institutions, and they're incubating. Look, what you have is Leonard Leo basically as a lobbyist for far-right judicial actors in this country, and I think that you have to admit that. I mean, just be honest.
I just described what the Federalist Society is and who Leonard Leo is.
They have speakers on campus.
And they advance and they support and advance conservative lawyers.
No, beyond conservative. How about far
beyond
right?
Conservative? Well, that's just demagoguery. Far right is Neil Gorsuch is far right. Clarence Thomas is far right. I don't know. Well, of course, everybody's far right to you.
You should check it out. You should do some reading. Because
what are you talking about?
Alito and Thomas are the leaders of the far right on the judiciary.
Right. They are, again, so conservative jurists can't be appointed and they can't have rich friends. Clarence Thomas is being smeared yet again because he's a conservative that he's been his entire adult life, and he's got a rich friend named Harlan Crow. Big frickin' whoop. All right. We're going to have more of this fun sparring, Juan and I. It's going to be this coming Tuesday night, and I don't have the details in front of me, but when we come back from the break, I'll get them to you, so anybody who wants to buy a ticket last minute can do so. Juan Williams, Fox News analyst, columnist for The Hill, author of What the Hell Do You Have to Lose? Juan, can't wait to see you on Tuesday in Chicago.
It'll be fun, and it'll be a home game for you. So I hope that you have fun, Dan. I hope that your blood pressure goes down.
I take 120 Life, so my blood pressure's in check.
All right.
Juan Williams, thank you.
Have fun. Tickets are on sale at 560theanswer.com/beyond. A few tickets remaining, so buy them now. Again, 560theanswer.com/beyond, and see you next Tuesday.
47 degrees at 8:33 on AM 560 The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. In moments, Alabama law enforcement officials will give an update on the search for suspects in Saturday's shooting in Dadeville. To date, no arrests have been made. 4 were killed, 32 others hurt. 1 person is dead, 5 others injured in a multi-level parking garage collapse in New York City.
Authorities describing this as a pancake collapse. FDNY quickly deeming this building unsafe, teetering on the edge of another collapse. They got all of their search and rescue personnel out.
The FDNY using a robotic dog and a drone to search inside that building. They believe all victims are accounted for. Police have made an arrest after a man killed at least 4 at a Maine home Tuesday. 4 victims so far have been discovered inside of a home in the town of Bowdoin. Short time later, 3 were shot while driving on a nearby highway. President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in a standstill over raising the debt ceiling. House Republicans are leveling up a plan to return spending to 2022 levels and limit future spending to 1% of annual growth over the next decade. Texas Republican Chip Roy talked with Fox News.
We have an obligation to stop spending money we don't have. That's why Republicans are putting forward a strong plan that would limit spending simply to 2022 levels, which would take us to pre-COVID non-defense, keep strong defense spending, pull it back so we can undo the bureaucracy that grew up under COVID.
The U.S. could start defaulting on obligations within a few weeks if the debt ceiling isn't raised. 2 are dead after a crash in north suburban Annie.